And I'm going to record just so you know. Morning. And hopefully, can you hear me okay? I just wanted to check, and feel free to check your mic and see if you can. Pretty sure you can hear me. Okay, I'm going to go with a yes there. Okay, good, good, good. All right, great. So welcome to Learn to Love Sheets. Again, my name is Allison Malika, and we're going to dive right into the activities at this point. So if you don't have your worksheet open, go ahead and open it up. If you don't have the link in your email or in the chat, you just type this into your browser, bit.ly/learn to love sheets. The 2 is a number 2, okay? As you do that, it will open up and you'll see this spreadsheet with the use template in the top right-hand corner. And you need to click on that because you're going to be doing some work with me today. So once you click on use template, you have your own version of Learn to Love Sheets. And this is the workbook that I've set up for today's lesson. Now, a little bit of Google talk is that this is a Google Doc, if you will. So you've got Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, and we kind of refer to Google Docs as being anything within the drive, you know. But this is your alternative to Excel. And one thing that Google does really well are cloud-based tools. And so in the top right-hand corner, you can see there's a lock here. This is private to me. Nobody can see this. Nobody can edit it. However, I can share this with people. And one of the nice things about the Google Slides is if you have 5 or 6 people that need to view or even help share in building a spreadsheet or a doc, you can click on share and you can give access to people. Now, they do have to have a Gmail account or a Google Workspace account. You can also give access to anyone. So if I'm sharing with people, I'm like, I don't know if they have a Google account, I can change this and change the option for anyone can edit or view, anyone in my domain. So this would be anyone with a link can view this, anyone in the world. So at this point, I can make a spreadsheet that anyone can view, and that's true for anything in Google. So you may be here because you know that already, but if not, sharing is one of the reasons Google Docs and Google Drive kind of like took off when it did. All right. So if you, just for reference, the slides, they kind of follow along the tabs. So you can see here, this says select all on my slide here. And then at the bottom here, this says select all. So if after the fact you're following the slides or you even want to teach somebody else, you can use the slides and the template and teach somebody else and work with a group of people who want to learn how to do this. So we're going to start off small. I like to think about this as kind of like a hike. You're starting to hike up a mountain. And usually when you go hiking, you start on a relatively flat spot and you start working your way up before it gets super steep. It's not going to like just be like boom, straight up. So this is like wading our way into spreadsheets. So we're going to start off with something simple. I hope it's simple. Select all. And the easiest way to select all is to click in the top left-hand corner, and there's one box above the 1 and to the left of the letter A, and if I click on that, it selects the whole spreadsheet. So ta-da, you just did your first task. Number 2, it says change the font to a newly selected font. I love this about Google is I don't have to download and import some font file. I can just click on the font and select more fonts. And there I can shop for whatever font I want to add to my Google Drive. And in this case, I always like to show you where you can sort by trending because it's always fun to see what fonts are trending, isn't it? So these are the trending fonts. And, you know, freckle face looks pretty cute. So I'm going to add that and I click OK. May not be the best choice for spreadsheets, but we'll see. And there you can see I've changed my font to Freckleface. And Freckleface will always be on my list of fonts. You can see because I do a lot of workshops, I have a lot of different fonts. So you can pick new fonts and you can change the font to everything by just selecting all on your sheet. All right, looks like we're still doing pretty good here. So we're going to hop over to resizing our columns. Now in task 2, one of the things that happens often is you can see I just changed my fonts, and now this column isn't displaying all the data, and this column just has way too much white space. And when you're trying to work with your spreadsheets, and you might be like traveling over, you want to maximize your screen space. So to do this, just highlight all of the columns that have data in them. So in this case, I'm going to click on column A. I'm going to do that again. Click on column A and drag. Now, sometimes when I show people how to do this, they end up moving things around. So if that happens to you, don't panic. It does happen, and you'll just have to get used to it. So you're gonna want to click and then drag. So you can see this is moving, but if I click and drag, then it doesn't move. But if you click and hold it and then drag, it's going to move the column. All right. So just if you're having trouble with that, you can practice. Our second step, it says right click and select resize columns. So I'm going to right click and I find resize columns A through D. And now I can just simply choose fit to data and click OK. And now all of my data is displayed in column A, and I don't have any unnecessary white space in any of the other columns, and that's kind of nice. All right, so we're going to go on to the next tab. So the tab down at the bottom is freeze, sort, and filter. And I'll make one final reference to the spreadsheet. We've done apply new fonts, we've expanded the columns, and now we're on to the freeze row. And you can see this changes to orange. And lo and behold, the color down here is orange. Now, when I show people this, they ask me, how did you get the colors? If you click on the little drop down here, you have the option to change the colors, which will underline in different colors, okay? If you just double click on any tab, that's how you can rename them. All right, so now we're on freeze, sort, and filter now, okay? And it says freeze row 1, okay? Well, there's a couple ways you can freeze row 1. One is you can click and drag. So if I hover over the line just above the number 1 here on the top left-hand corner, I can, once I see the hand, I can hold down the click and I can drag, and it will have this dark gray line. And I don't want to let go until I put it right below where I want to freeze. Okay, so now that just froze line row 1. And what that means is as I scroll down, if I have 300 things here, as I scroll down, name, trade, state, party, those headers are going to stay constant up at the top. The other thing is that they won't get sorted. So when we go to sort later in a moment, it won't sort name. So you won't end up with name in the middle of your list. Now, the other thing you can do is you can click on view and freeze. So I could have selected one row, but I can also select the column because if I go over here and I freeze one column, now the name is frozen. And I'm sure if you work with spreadsheets, you've had sheets that you have to scroll across, but then you're like, I need to see whose name that is. And that's how you can lock that row and then scroll over. So freezing is a very handy action in your spreadsheet. Now we're going to sort the sheet based on presidential first name. Right now it's in, I think, reverse alphabetical order. So I'm going to click on, I could right click, but I want to show you if you hover over A for the column, there's a little down arrow, there's a little box here. So you click on it and you have a lot of options here. Now I just want to draw your attention to the fact that there's a lot of options here. You can insert a column to the left or the right. You can delete a column. You can clear the column. You can hide the column. You can resize the column. In this case, we're going to sort it A to Z. And I'm often asked, if I do that, will all the other data follow along, or am I going to mix up my data? It's going to follow along. The integrity of your information will remain intact. It's going to sort, it's going to take everything with Zachary as far as his trade and his party, and it's going to keep that matched up. So I'm going to sort A to Z. And now I have Abraham Lincoln up at the top and Zachary at the bottom. Now the next thing I'm going to do, this starts to get a little, we're starting to like get a little steeper on the grade here if you think about the hiking analogy. We've just sorted, but now we want to use a filter, and filters are awesome. And once you start using them, you'll never go back, but it can be something you have to practice if you're new to spreadsheet. So I want to be able to view trade, and I want to be able to view it, you know, at different times. So in this case, I want to just see the lawyers, for example. But how do I do that? I could sort by lawyer, but I want to be able to filter things. And filtering is something that you can also save. So in the right-hand corner of your toolbar, so let's go up to the toolbar here, you've got the create a filter icon, all right? Create a filter. And I also believe on the menu, if you can't find that, forgive me, I need to, it's under data, create a filter. So if you don't see the icon on the toolbar, because you're on a Chromebook and maybe it's smushed up, you can always pick it from the data menu to create the filter. The other thing you should know is if your screen gets really tiny, like on a Chromebook, I've had this happen a lot, is you don't see the whole toolbar, but if you click on the 3 dots all the way to the right, then you will be able to select the remainder of the options on what would traditionally be on your toolbar, okay? So just want to make you aware of that. Add that. So now we're going to turn on the filter. Just click it, turn it on. And you know you've successfully turned on a filter because it's highlighted in green and you see these little green like striped arrows here. And remember I said I wanted to view only the lawyers. So I am going to select the drop down just to the right of trade. And if you scroll down, you'll see that all of the trades are selected. So I'm going to clear that and just find my lawyer option and click OK. And that's quite a few lawyers. I'm sure that comes as no surprise to you that the most popular trade is lawyer for presidents. Now I'm going to clear that again and see how many were businessmen. And we've got the Bushes and Jimmy Carter. Okay. Clear or select all and click OK. All right. Now to turn off filters, you just click on the filter view again and turn it off. Okay. This can come in really handy if you have a spreadsheet with a lot of people, maybe contracts that you're paying out to different people or students or customers, and you're like, I just want to see the customers in a certain sales rep's territory, and you've got like 500 rows. Filters can make your life a lot easier. So that's how you use filters. If you need me to stop and review anything, just go ahead and post in the chat. If you need anything, I'm just kind of monitoring that, and it looks like you're doing okay. We're going to hop over to conditional formatting now. And normally I would teach this in a very controlled setting where we had a certain amount of time allocated to everyone actually checking in and making sure they've completed everything. But because we're recording this and we'll share the recording and you have all the templates, you'll be able to go back and review everything later. Okay. So moving right along, we're going to take a look at conditional formatting. And there's a couple of new features with Google Sheets that you might find interesting. One is the alternating colors. Now, if you click on, we'll talk about the Explore tool later, but for now, if you go to Format, there is the alternating color option. And so when you click on that, it brings up the conditional formatting options, including alternating colors. So I can pick and choose what I want to apply for colors to my workbook. Now, in this case, I just want to draw your attention. Look how it knew exactly what area it wanted to apply the colors to. It's not suggesting that it format cells that aren't being used. So that's an interesting thing. You also have the option to make some changes. So if you're like, I love this, except I want this header to be quite a bit darker, and I'm going to change, you know, the font now for my header to white, and that's going to be how I want that to be. You know, you can modify it. All right. I don't like that. So I'm going to undo. Okay. So you have alternating colors. I'm going to close out of that because we're going to get into one where you decide what the color of the cell is going to be. And this can be helpful for a variety of reasons. In this case, we want to get a visual on Democrat and Republican. So we're going to select column D. If you select it first, it's easier. What it's doing is it's saying anything between D1 and at the bottom, D, let's say 500, is going to be in this category. And then we're going to click on Format and choose Conditional Formatting. And this is how you set up formatting the way you want it to be, based on the rules that you design. So the rule that we're going to put for column D here, you can see it applies to range D1 colon D1001. Okay, so if I take that out, I'm going to cancel that just for a second. Let's say that you didn't select the column first and you forgot to, and you clicked on format and you chose conditional formatting. What would you do? It says apply to range E24. Well, that's not what you want. You want to apply it to D1, and then you use a colon to be like your replacement for dash. You know how dash is generally the through, you know, D1, 2, you do a dash. It's going to be a colon, and then D1000. We don't even go as far as 1,000, but we'll cover ourselves. And we say, if the cell is not empty, no. If the text contains, let's go with exactly, because we've got this Democrat Republics, you know, combo here. Text is exactly, and then I'm going to put Democrat, and then we're going to change the color to blue, like a dark blue, but I can't read it. So I'm going to make it bold and white. And now anything that is exactly Democrat in this list, all right, and then I click on done, all right. And then I can add another rule. For the same range, I say D1 to D1000, and I'm going to choose it's exactly, and we'll put in Republican. Yes, spelling counts. And we'll make this bright red, or this red, and we'll do the same thing. We'll do the white and the bold, and so you can see now I've got my visual there. All right. So we're just going to take a breather and kind of review back what we've done so far. So we started out with select all. All right. We changed the font. We resized the columns. We hopped over to freeze, sort, and filter. And we did freezing of the top row in the left column. And we also learned how to turn on the filter, find our tools when our screen is condensed, and filter for just one item, okay, or a few items. And then we applied under format, alternating colors, and conditional formatting. So you did a lot. If you've kept up so far, good for you. And now we're ready to jump into split and checkbox, another couple other great features. I love the fact that you don't need a formula now to split a column because you used to need one, and I'd spend 20 minutes looking for that formula every time I needed it. But so often I have been presented with data where the first and last name is in one cell in a spreadsheet, and you need to be able to sort by last name, right? And you're like, how am I going to do this? So let's select column A. So if you haven't jumped over to split and checkbox tab, go ahead and jump over to that. And then we're going to select column A. And then from the data menu, you're going to choose split text into columns. So we're going to go to data, and we're going to split text into columns. And the separator I've set to detect automatically, or I can choose, in this case, I'm going to choose space. Now, keep in mind that if you have like a middle initial for some names and not for others, this doesn't work so nicely. But if you just have basic first name, last name, and you choose that, you can see how nicely that split. And then you can rename column A first and column B last. Now here's a quiz for you. How do you resize columns so that you don't have that extra white space? You highlight both, you right click, you resize, and fit to data. Boom. Beautiful. You gotta love it. Now we're going to do the next thing. We're going to add a column to the left. So I'm going to click on somewhere in column A. I don't have to select the whole column. I can just click there. I can then right click, or I can choose that from the drop down and choose insert one left, or I could right click and insert. And we're going to just say completed as the top criteria. All right. And we're going to put in check boxes. So we're going to add a checkbox to B1, but I'm going to show you how to fill down instead of having you go down to each one. So just select B2, and choose, I believe it's insert. Yep, insert, and choose checkbox. And this gives you the option to check and uncheck, right? And to fill down, I can fill it down by just clicking on there and selecting that little tiny dark blue square in the bottom right hand corner of the selected cell. You know that you're selecting it because your mouse cursor turns into the crosshair, and you just click, hold down the clicker, and drag it down. Now you have checkboxes. It's a newer feature, but people do appreciate it and use it quite a bit, so I like to mention it. All right. The other thing too is that little handle that you pulled down. If I wanted to number these 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't have to keep going all the way down. I can just do 1, 2, 3, and then I can fill it down, and it will fill. It should fill down. Yeah, fill down the pattern. So 1, 2, 3, boom, and you keep going. All right. I think we did pretty good on that one. And now we're going to move on to wrap text. I was surprised. I threw this in when I first started teaching Google Sheets. I was always surprised how many people were just blown away by being able to wrap text, that they were doing this in their spreadsheet all the time to read things when they didn't have to. So I use Google Forms a lot to collect data, and a lot of it is open-ended responses that can go into a spreadsheet. Now, if I want to read these, I can just highlight these 2 columns, and I'm going to get rid of this so I can see my whole toolbar here. This is the text wrapping icon. I'm kind of hovering over it, and you have the option to have it kind of like overlap, but this little center one here, this is the wrap text, all right? And now you can see, I can read everything that's in this column. Now, this makes the column this makes it kind of like a little too narrow. So now I'm just going to resize this and I'm like, yeah, this is perfect. So this is where I do more of a manual manipulation. First I set the wrap text and then I kind of decide like, hey, I only have 2 things here. So why don't I like, yeah, that, why don't I just broaden it up a little bit? That way I can, read everything on one screen. And that's how but as you resize them, all the text will stay visible in the cell. So that's the wrap text. It's kind of simple, but if you don't know to use it and you're doing things differently, then you're going to appreciate this little tip. So that's an easy one. That's like take a breath, hit a flat spot there. That should be pretty relatively easy. You can turn it off and on as you see fit. All right. So just to recap, we've done the conditional formatting, we've inserted a column, we've added checkboxes, we've split the data, and now we've wrapped the text. And so we're going to go into Autosum. And in this next spreadsheet, we're going to use the Autosum function, but I'm going to talk a little bit about a basic formula too, because I don't want you or your students to think the only way to get things done mathematically in a spreadsheet is through the click of a button. These little clicks, the clicks of a button, are based on formulas, and they have like all the formulas have kind of like a pattern they follow. So I have it up here in a cell. If you wanted to get the sum, which is the total, you just type equals sum. I have an error here. I'll tell you about that. Equals sum, and then the parenthesis, and then B1 colon. We talked about that. B1 through to B10. We want to add all of those cells up. B1, B2, B3, B4, B5. But I missed on the end. You need to close that parenthesis. And if I don't have that, if I put that formula in there the way it's written here, I'd get an error. So you want to make sure that you close those in, you tuck them in nicely, and then you hit enter and that will work. So we're going to get a total for May. So we have like this fundraiser for car wash. It says car wash fundraiser bike-a-thon. I think they're all fundraisers. May total. So for May, the car wash did 352. The cookie fundraiser did 575, and the bike-a-thon did 987. What was the total for May? Well, when I've taught spreadsheet to students and they've turned in their work, a lot of times I'll just see the total amount, but I don't see the formula, and I'll ask them, like, how did you get the total? And they're like, oh, I did it on my calculator. No, we're not doing that. So go to the Autosum tab and just click in cell E2. Now, how do I know I've clicked in E2? In the top left-hand corner, it says E2. So that's how you know you're in the right spot. All right. And we'll use the Autosum icon first, and then we'll practice the formula. Okay. So in cell E2, we want to total B2 to D2. So find the Autosum icon on your toolbar and click on sum. And what that does is it says it pretty much sets up the formula I just described to you. And it asks you, well, okay, I know you want to add stuff up, but what do you want to add up? And in this case, you can type in B2 colon D2, or you can click and drag over the 3 and it does it for you. See? So what the Autosum, those little tools do for you is they set up the formula for you so that you don't have to memorize it. But by knowing this, you now over time will be able to figure new things out. So now I hit enter and it gives me the total, but it also kind of gets the idea that I might want Autosum all the way down. So I'm getting a suggested autofill, and then I can click on the checkbox and say, hell yeah, I want those totals, and boom, they're there. But what do you do if you don't get the auto suggest? I didn't get that. I don't know what to do. You can use the handle and drag down the formula. You could put the formula in each cell, or you can click and drag down And there is the Control D. Control, as you probably already know, is a way to use a shortcut. So if I hold down the Control and the letter D for down, it fills down the formula, okay? Now let's practice typing it now that you have all this schema and backdrop for formulas. If you go into cell B8, that's the grand total for the whole car wash fundraiser, right? If I want to total that and I want to be formula savvy, I'm going to type equals. Now Google's like, I know what you want. You want the sum of the car wash, and it's already suggesting what I put in. But if you want to practice, you type sum, and then you do a parenthesis, and then B2 colon B7, and then close parenthesis, enter. Now, you probably never have to do that because I've taught you all the other tools and ways to get that done. But as you know, it's good to know the back end of it in case you ever need it. Okay. Now, if I want to drag these over to the right, the formulas, so I can drag it to the right, and there's the total here of my fundraiser activities. All right. Now, Diana and Heidi, you're the only two I see right now. And I'm curious about whether you're teachers or school administrators or business people.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm a school administrator and I do use Sheets and I use a lot of what you've been talking about, but I've never known the shortcuts and I've never taken the time to learn them. So this has been helpful for me because I do tons of tabs. I do tons of, sorting stuff like this. So this is helpful just to get the little tricks of, how to put the color at the bottom of a tab so I can draw people's attention to it or use it as a description for where I want them to go. So this has been great.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, it's you get a little bit and it can take you a long way, just add to that. Thank you. I asked because we're going to go into average now. So applying the same idea that you could use the function average and grab that from the list, or you can use the concept that we just talked about where you type in the equal sign, and in this case we want the average, and we do the parenthesis, and I'll drag it over Julie and hit enter, and then I get the average, and then I can use the suggested fill to fill it down. So average works the same way as the Autosum, and you can get that off of the toolbar on your toolbar, the function tool on your toolbar.
Hi, I use Excel and the Google Docs a lot, and I'm an office administrator, but I also freelance teach, and I'm really proficient in Excel, and I'm intermediate in the Google Docs. So this is really helpful to just get that knowledge because I love Google so that it's stored on the cloud. I can access it anywhere. And it's just that going back and forth between Excel and here to learn where the little things are to make it easier. So this is very helpful. Thank you.
Sure, and I agree. I use both Excel and Google, and I absolutely love cloud-based tools. I love being able to work quickly between tabs and not have to open files constantly. That's a plus for me. But the same thing is like going back and forth and trying to maintain your savviness in all platforms. It's very similar to going from Macs to PCs. You can be run a Mac super efficiently if you use it every day. And then you get on a Windows machine, you're like, oh, this hurts. But then if you flip it around and you spend 3 months on a Windows machine, you haven't used your Mac for a while, it's same thing. It's just it's difficult to maintain your savviness in all platforms. But yes, I attend both workshops to get tips and tricks of the trade for all platforms. For the create chart, we're going to get into some fun stuff that I love about Google Sheets that we don't get with as well. We get it a little more now with Microsoft. They're catching up to some of the machine learning type stuff. They were lagging, and then they like moved right ahead at warp speed. But we're going to look at the basics of creating a chart in the Google Sheets. So we're looking at, in this case, the school district is tracking the number of bus incidents each month. Your administrator would like you to create a chart for the monthly, should have an L there. You have to fix your own monthly. Select the data and insert chart. So we're going to play around with charts. So we're going to select this data and then insert chart or the chart tool on the toolbar. And you can pick the chart that you want. So I'm going to choose insert chart. And I don't know what's going on because I can't, it's not happening. Oh, there we go. Just a little slow. I was a little impatient. Now, I don't like this particular chart. I could delete, but I'm not going to delete it. I can modify it. So right on the get-go, if it's deselected, I see nothing. But if I select it, right, and I choose edit chart from the little menu here, I have all my options back. And right now I'm going to just look and see what my options are. And I like this line chart better, so I'm going to go with line chart. And if I want to customize it and make sure I can get my titles in, like I don't have a chart title, so I'm going to do bus incidents by month, bus incidents. And I like to use this as an example because I teach data, like a little bit of talking about how visualizing data helps sell your story or convince your audience. And whether you're in business or you're teaching students or you're talking to teachers, if you add visuals to the point you're trying to make, it can make the story clearer. So very quickly, I can look at this and go, wow, right around the time that is coming to town, the bus incidents go down. But whoa, look, they go through the roof as kids are starting to get anxious about leaving school. So you can see, like, you can make decisions about what's going on, how many people do I need, extra people at a certain time, what can I do during these periods to reduce anxiety. These are the types of things that you can start quickly thinking about visually, that you wouldn't with just data. But we tend to stop with data, and we tend to underutilize charts and graphs and visuals when we're trying to sell our story or make a point. So I'm really big proponent of charts and graphs. You can go ahead and modify your x-axis, your y-axis, to your heart's content. This is the title, and then I have my horizontal and my vertical. I won't go through all of these, but once you get into the setup and customize, you can change the colors, the fonts, everything, anything you need to. What I love about this, there's two things you need to know that are Google, to me, they're Google unique. Quickly, this chart I can publish and embed on a website. And as the data changes, the chart will change in real time. So if you have data that you want to message out to your audience on your website, you can embed the chart on your website for your visual. And as data comes in and changes, it changes on the website. And I love doing this with students to record data, maybe the growth of their bean plant in kindergarten or weather, and then have it report on the outside so they can see how it matters to collect data and report it. So just a couple little things about that. Here's a little practice chart tab that you can get into to kind of like work with, this is the plant growth, but work with more. I'm not going to do anything with that. I will mention on Docs. So if I I'm going to go to Google Docs, docs.new. That's another tip you might pick up here, docs.new. I think that's how it works. Hopefully. Yep. you go to docs.new, it makes a new Google Doc that you can name and file away into your thing. Now I can insert, and then I can go to chart, and I can choose from sheets. So if I'm doing a report, and I can do this in slides too, for my school board, I used to do technology reports to the budget advisory committee all the time. And so I would use charts and graphs. So you can insert a chart into that, and as the data updates, you can update it into your thing. So I think this is the one we're using right now, and there's the chart I just made, and I can link it to the spreadsheet. So when it goes in, it's there, you can see that, and then I can update it. So if it changes, when I click on this, it'll say, do you want to update? Yeah, I do. So I thought you might want to see that too. And then we're getting near the end. There's some advanced tutorial things you can do. I'm just going to start with the Explore tool. This is based on machine learning. When Google launched, converted Google Drive to artificial intelligence machine learning, they added this Explore tool to Docs, Sheets, and Slides. So the Explore tool in Google Sheets is pretty cool. When you click on Explore in the bottom right-hand corner, one of the things I like is that you can ask questions. And I love doing this with students, like, what is the average hours of sleep? Average hours of sleep. Hours of sleep. Oh, it is 6.71. So it knows, like, I'm asking that question, but not only does it answer the question, it gives me the formula. So if I want to put the formula down here, because I'm going to have more data later, I'm going to keep adding to it, I can do that. And then I can update this to go to a different place. All right. So that's kind of a cool thing about the Explore tool. The other thing the Explore tool does is it looks at your data and it gives you the quick option to format it. If you go a little further down, it will automatically suggest pivot tables. So here, I'm going to drag this in so you can see it. This is a pivot table. Favorite high calorie snack against the average hours of sleep per night. Now, does it surprise anyone that the avocado results in a greater number of hours of sleep? So you could talk with your students about, hey, maybe healthy foods help us sleep, and maybe cheeseburgers don't, and chips, I don't know. So you get suggested charts and graphs and things like that. So I really like this Explore tool. A lot of different options show up depending on the data that you have. Commenting. You can share a spreadsheet by just clicking on share, which I showed you earlier. But if you've already got this shared with people, you can email collaborators directly. You can download it as a PDF or CSV file. Now, I use Google Docs and Sheets for my own productivity, but my team uses Excel. So each Friday, for example, I have to download registrations for workshops and courses over to the registrar's office, and they use Excel only. So I download it as a CVS and attach it to an email. So you just click on File, Download. Now, here's the kicker here. Just like with Excel, if you want them to have the entire workbook, you have to download it as Excel. If you want them to have just the worksheet, the one sheet that you're on, you download it as a CSV file. Okay. Those are the two tips I have for you. All right, I'm going to close out Explore tool now. Data validation. So column E has data validation, which is a list to choose from. You can see here that I have 3 things here. Classwork meets objectives, but is often late. Classwork is on time or early, but often contains errors. Classwork is turned in on time and meets objectives. Well, I use this as an example for using actually a tool called Yet Another Mail Merge to send automated emails out to parents. So you can see here, this says student is Tommy, mom's first name, mom's last name, and mom's email. So I can make an email that says, "Dear Betty, I just want to update you on Tommy's progress in regards to classwork." And then this would be like comment, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, if you have any questions, please call me. So this is how I have this set up. I want to be able to quickly pick off the list instead of having to type it each time. So to do that, you would just click on data validation. So I believe it's data validation. Yep. And you can insert data validation anywhere. Here I chose list of items, and you just separate the list by comma. So in this case, I wanted a drop down of lists in the cell, and these are the 3 things, okay? Now I mentioned, and I have time, so I'm gonna show you the YAM. So there's an add-on called Yet Another Mail Merge for Gmail, and I've used it for several years. I found it to be particularly helpful. So if I were to type an email right now, I'll just hop over to my email and compose, and I won't put anything in the to, I'll just the classroom update, and then dear, and then this would be first, and then just update on name, classwork. And then this would be comment. All right. So I can add more to this email, but you've got first, name, and comment. Now, if I go over to the spreadsheet here, I can go name, because I didn't do that. For these have to match, name first, and I said comment, right? So now I can go to add-ons and format this, start this mail merge. Let's see, did I call this classroom update? Okay. And I used to pay for a premium for this, but no, if you send 1,500 emails a day, it gets just marked as spam anyway. So, but if you pay like, I think it's $25 a year, it's great because you can, if you do need to send to 100 or a couple hundred parents a day, you can do this from like an office standpoint. So I'm going to grab the classroom update, and I've got all these emails going out. Track emails, send 12 emails. So that should send those emails out. And you can see that it's working here. And it should show in my sent. It's been a little while, but I'm pretty sure it'll show in my sent. Yep. So you can see this went out. Dear Betty, update on Tommy's classwork. All classwork is turned on and meets objectives. So it also puts it into your sent. Update on Fred's, classwork's on time or early, but often contains errors. So data validation is good, but a lot of the tools that I use are great when they're used in combination with other needs. And the other thing I like about the YAM is it tells you like who opened, how many were opened, clicked, and you know whether or not anyone unsubscribed. And this is a way a lot of teachers I know like to use this to also report to their administrators how they are communicating with parents and updating them on students. And you can also keep track of responses. You can track and be able to report on like by keeping in touch each week. You know, Archie has improved his performance in turning in things on time. I've talked with the parents more, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the combination of using tools and features with spreadsheets allows you to do more with data. So here's a little practice thing for you. There's a little tab here that gives you an opportunity to try out the yet another mail merge. I'll let you try that out on your own. And then we get into little extras. So there's this concatenate if you need to merge these two columns. And then there's also this mapping sheets add-on. So I showed you the yet another mail merge, but the mapping sheets is a pretty fun add-on. If you have the ability to add it, sometimes people have to go to their Gmail account to use add-ons because their Google Workspace doesn't allow them to add add-ons. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. For those of you who are watching the recording or came in at toward the end of the workshop, I'll just recap the beginning that there is a gosh, I can't talk right now. There is a link to Learn to Love Sheets, and that's a link to the actual presentation. If you go to nhti.edu/BTC. I also sent you in your email a link to the workbook. Okay. That's bit.ly Learn to Love Sheets. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to this presentation because I know everybody has this. I'm going to put a link to this presentation. Give it a second to work. So if you've already downloaded the workbook, it won't be there. You have to open it up again. Learn to Love Sheets. Okay. So here's the link. Oh, I didn't show you how to add a link. So if I want to link this cell, I just click on link. You don't highlight the text, just click on the cell once and you paste the link in. And now that link is there. So if you go to the link I sent you, it'll bring you to, I'll show you here. And then you click on use template and that link is now in there. Okay. The other feature that I think is awesome is Google has added a revision history to cells. So cells have edit history where in the past they didn't. So not only can you get revision history on a spreadsheet as a whole, if a number changes and you're like, wait, why did this number change? You can go and look at the history and see who changed the information in a single cell, which is really, really a great feature. All right. I think that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording. And if you have any questions, please feel free